Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Sunday, August 17th, 2025, and Finance Canada is, according to Blacklock's, trying to ban large cash deposits regardless of the source. And that's not great. Large cash deposits. Businesses do large cash deposits. I worked at Taco Bell in the 90s, and we used to do $5,000 hours. And I thought that was a lot of money for Taco Bell. I thought, man, like this is a busy Taco Bell. We're doing $5,000 hours. And at the end of the night, we'd have to do the drop. Like we'd have to take the money. We'd have to turn the safe on because there was a timed safe thing because every hour you'd have to do a drop into the safe of all the extra money. And then at the end of the day, you'd go and put the money in the bank. And so there were all of these cash money flying all over the place. And I guess that's largely been digitized. And now Finance Canada definitely wants to ban cash money. So I think we're already using the system that they want us to use. We are just being transitioned over to not being able to use cash. And so there's no option other than to use their central bank digital currency, or I guess Bitcoin. But I'm worried that maybe Bitcoin is part and parcel of this whole plan too. Van der Leyen has invited herself to the White House on Monday with Zelensky. She says, "I'll see you there, Donald." And so that's interesting to me. I think, will this peace deal be scuttled because of too many cooks in the kitchen? Police corruption cover up in Durham. I remember reporting on this story in 2019, like before the world went absolutely crazy. So it's interesting that I've got this update. And the update is nothing to see here, citizen, move on. So keep walking, just keep walking. So I'll update you with that. Liberal leadership discrepancies, 200,000 ballots not present, nowhere to be found. I guess they just didn't exist, or maybe they were inconvenient. So if you take out these 200,000 ballots from the Liberals who are voting for the leader, then Mark Carney wins 85% in every riding. Should we do it? Yeah, do it. I guess that's what happened. Maybe, I'm not sure. Gazans were being flown all over the United States. Laura Loomer figured that out, and she has blown the whistle on it and stopped it. And so I've got that whole series of events for you as well. It's a very interesting turn of events, and like, man, just absolutely wild and crazy stuff going on. And the wildest and craziest, of course, is Air Canada being ordered back to work, and that benefiting our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, because Brookfield owns shares in Air Canada. And so weird, right? Like weird. Or maybe just owns Air Canada, like outright. Just there you go. So holy cow, right? I mean, this is kind of, we've just been conditioned to accept this kind of corruption and cronyism and all of the rest, but it's still jaw-dropping. It's still surprising for, a guy in his garage remembering the 90s when things seemed sane. Anyway, lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we've got to start with the Air Canada legislated back to work strike and all the rest of that. Jing Lee says Pierre Poilievre fought for better wages for flight attendants while Mark Carney's jobs minister threw them under the bus and banned their ability to strike for fairer wages. Oh, and I got a message, a comment on Canada Poly talking from a flight attendant, and she said that she was paid for when they're on the tarmac. Anything according to her boarding is good. If you're on the runway ready to go, you're getting paid there, but there are parts where you're not getting paid. So I was incorrect yesterday, and thank you for helping me understand what was going on. I still think it's a pretty big deal. Let me know if you think that it's a good deal, or if is the union being crazy here, or is Air Canada being crazy here? I think the problem fundamentally is that Air Canada bet on the government coming in and legislating the union back to work. And so they were never really negotiating in good faith. They never really wanted to solve the problem. They wanted to say there's an impasse, and they wanted the government to come in and fix it. And that's exactly what happened. And so I think that that's an issue because that totally undermines the power of the union. And I think that that's a problem. So is the union being crazy? I don't know, man. I think that they may have some legitimate grievances, right? And there could be things that are fixed up for those people. And that's the union's job. But instead, they're being undermined by the government, and they can't operate at all, even if I think unions they enrich themselves instead of the workers that they work for. But I digress. Here's Pierre Poilievre and what he said about the whole thing on August 6th. So this has been brewing for a while. This is not new. This has definitely been a problem that's been festering. And so Pierre Poilievre says, "Dear Minister Haydu, I'm writing to urge you to amend the Canada Labour Code to require that federally regulated airlines pay flight attendants for all hours that they are on duty, not just the time spent in the air. Today, many airlines begin paying flight attendants only when the aircraft's doors close, the plane pushes back, or the wheels leave the ground, but crews are expected to arrive well before that to conduct safety checks, assist boarding passengers, handle delays, and perform other duties. They remain off duty after landing to assist passengers and complete post-flight tasks. All of this is work, yet much of it goes unpaid. No other federally regulated worker would accept being on the job without being paid, and neither should flight attendants. It's time to end this outdated and unfair practice, which is why in the last parliament, Conservatives introduced Bill C-409, which would have ensured the flight attendants are paid for their pre- and post-flight work time. I urge your government to update the labor code to ensure flight attendants are paid for every minute they're required to be at work, from check-in to sign-off. These professionals play a vital role in our transportation system and deserve compensation that reflects the full scope of their responsibilities. So I think that's a well-intentioned, well-measured letter, and Patty Haydu ignored it. Of course she did. And here is Patty Haydu announcing the back-to-work legislation for Air Canada's flight attendants. And it's not great. This is not a good way to run the country. But at the same time, the argument on the flip side is we have to get these planes moving. We can't have, this is the end of summer, that people are relying on this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I see all those arguments too. But this government, specifically this government, does nothing when they have time to do something about it. And then when it gets to a crisis point, when people are walking off the job, when it's already impacted people, then they start acting. And that's a terrible effing way to govern. These people are incompetent or purposely doing it to cause as much chaos and look like they're trying to solve the problem as possible. And I don't know what it is, but I believe a little from column A, a little from column B. Here's Patty Haydu legislating the flight attendants back to work.
As Minister of Labour, I have exercised my authorities under Section 107 of the Canadian Labour Code to direct the Canada Industrial Relations Board to order the parties to resume and continue their operations and duties in order to secure industrial peace and protect the interests of Canada, Canadians, and the economy. I've also asked the board to assist the parties in reaching a settlement of the outstanding terms of their collective agreement by imposing final and binding arbitration, and to extend the terms of the existing collective agreement until a new one is determined by the arbitrator. As Minister of Labour...
So there you go, and they're going to binding arbitration. Yay, you're welcome, everybody. Here is Patty Haydu, and she's being asked, you guys are moving really fast with this. What's the hurry? Why didn't you do anything? And then all of a sudden you're doing something. Does it have anything to do with these conflicts that she brings up? Here we go.
Experts that I've spoken to about the use of 107 say that the government's repeated use of this is poisoning negotiations because companies believe that they can kind of bargain to an impasse and then the government will step in and prevent a strike from happening. Why did you choose to use 107 so quickly here? I think this is the fastest use of it I've seen. Is your government anti-union?
I absolutely reject the notion that our government is anti-union. In fact, under the previous Liberal government, we considerably...
Pivot. Now she's going to give examples of supporting the unions, but in this case, they're completely undermining the union.
Strengthened the Canada Labour Code. We banned the use of replacement workers, and we stood side by side with unions in terms of supporting their work, not only in labour negotiations, but also in training and recruiting new members. And so this work will continue. We believe that unions are an essential part of a healthy and growing economy. However, in a case like this, where multiple efforts have been made to conclude an agreement that satisfies both parties, and it is clear that they are at an impasse, it is very clear they need some help in arbitrating the final items.
If there's sometimes you're salaried and you do extra kind of work, but it balances out, right? Like you check your email after dinner because you're salaried, or your boss emails you at 8:00 and you're like, oh my gosh. And then they're like, can you do this ASAP? And you feel like, yeah, maybe I'll do this right now. It's fine. It'll take me 5 minutes. I'll do it right now. It's not a big report. It's just can you do this? Can you pull this number? I need this for the thing I'm working on. And you kind of do it. And you're not strictly paid for that hour, but you kind of do it because yeah, all right. And I was always taught salary is you work all the time. Not really all the time, but there's a class of job where you're kind of working, right? And so I don't view it as necessarily totally outside of the realm of possible. But if you consistently have to show up an hour before work and you have to stay at work for an hour after work, some police officers, one guy I know, he did his 12-hour shift And then at the end of 12 hours, he came back and he did like 2 hours of paperwork after that. And I said, why, man? Like, isn't your shift over? He's like, oh yeah, but you can't leave until you get your paperwork done. And he got paid for those 2 hours. Like, it's not like he got shorted those 2 hours and that was on his time, right? So like, in one respect, I understand the salary and I understand that, you know, you're going to do extra stuff. On the other side, if you're consistently doing hours worth of paperwork and other professions get paid for that paperwork or hours extra work after the main duties are done, then you should probably get compensated for that. And if it's part and parcel of the salary, then maybe the salary should go up. Maybe everybody should understand that. I'm not an air stewardess. I don't particularly like flying, especially these days after watching all of the whistleblowers from Boeing and things like that and watching the air crashes lately. But all of that aside, I'm not an expert in this field, so I could be wrong about all of this, but there are kind of nuances when you get into working period, right? Like some salary people expect you to work through dinner and they'll buy you dinner, but they expect you there until 6:00, right? And I've experienced that. I've seen that. So there's all sorts of weird things about weird places that people work, and airlines are no different. Is this a hill to die on, or is the government right to do this and do this the way they're doing it? I think they failed. I think they knew on August 6th at least that this was coming, and they could have done something then to be preventative about it. But is this one of those nuanced things where it's all part and parcel of the salary, or not so much, right? And so I genuinely don't know, but I think it's weird, and I think our government's kind of crap. Mark Nixon says, congratulations, Canada. You voted for Liberals. You got the worst. I don't think we voted for Liberals. I think our elections are rigged. You got the worst inflation in 40 years. You got unaffordable housing, and now you're not even allowed to strike for fair wages. Enjoy the ride. It's happening in England. It's happening in Australia. It's happening in Ireland. It's happening in all sorts of places. The government is doing things that the citizens don't want in a weirdly coordinated way, and it doesn't seem like we're choosing that. It seems like it's being forced on us, and we're being told, oh, you're definitely choosing that, but don't look at the books too much because that might be uncomfortable for you. Dave says the Montreal-based airline, Air Canada, says the first flights will resume this evening, but that it will take several days before its operations return to normal. So there you go. People who are waiting in hotels had their 7-day vacation extended to a 9-day vacation, and they went to the Iberostar on Air Canada's dime, right? So that's interesting. And the airline stewardesses, flight attendants are being legislated back to work. Wild and crazy times. Mr. Sunshine Baby is highlighting the same thing that Mark Nixon's highlighting, which is interesting. He says the Liberal government has ordered Air Canada flight attendants back to work. You are not allowed to protest in Canada. You are not allowed to strike in Canada, and you are not allowed your rights in Canada. Right? You are allowed to protest for Palestine, though. That's what you're allowed to do. We're going to look at that across the board as well. The invasion is a big story these days, too. Table Salt says, before we get there, we have to talk about the fires and the glyphosate being sprayed in Nova Scotia. And Table Salt says, I've obtained a document that appears to show the province of Nova Scotia is spraying the herbicide Bayer Vision Max glyphosate linked to cancer on thousands of acres of forest during a drought and banning hiking. And so this is the approval number and the approval holder, so the people who are doing it, and the method, Ariel, and the county listed in approval, Colchester County, and then site location according to this thing's property. So where they're spraying this stuff, and then it's got all the rest and the hectares and all of that, and it's got Vision Max in the far right and Timberline. I don't know what Timberline is, but I would imagine it's similar stuff. So pretty wild. And here are the 2025 approvals, she says. So that's concerning, to say the least. Table Salt says, now that people are banned from the forest in Nova Scotia, the government is suddenly spraying thousands of acres with Roundup, adding millions of pounds of dead material to the tinderbox. What? Nova Scotia approves glyphosate spraying on 3,577 acres of drought-stricken, fire-prone forest. And so that's not good. And what it does is it kills the foliage around the tree, I guess, and because that was having a problem, like making a problem for the carnivorous trees they wanted to encourage. And so they'll kill that other creeping trees, and then that dead material around the other trees could light on fire and then kill the whole forest, right? So like Awesome. Great work, everybody. Mario says the government's right. It's not climate change causing fires. It's people, government people, glyphosate. They may as well light the match themselves. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's terrible because people who know are not hyperbolic about it, but are not overstating it. This makes things more flammable. This causes problems. What are we doing? This kind of quasi geoengineering, and I don't even know if it's quasi geoengineering. It might just directly be geoengineering. And people who know, and everybody who doesn't know, which is like 80% of people, just bop on by not understanding or worrying about how they're being lied to and the extent they're being lied to the extent they're being lied to, and how much they're paying for the cause of all of these, quote, wildfires and things that are going on. Pretty wild stuff. And so I don't know how this whole thing is going to end. I think it's just going to be more of the same, unfortunately. Inevitable West, let's talk about the invasion of the West ongoing. And Inevitable West says breaking Operation Raising the Colors is gaining more and more traction across the United Kingdom. This is the best form of protest. So people are going and buying Union Jack flags and then taking them out and putting them up everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So here's just one video, and I've got many videos of this. Here we go. It's incredible that people are covering their face to raise British flags across highways. Here are people, two guys, one guy's holding the ladder and the other guy's climbing up the light post, and they're hanging the Union Jack on the light post. And people are honking and saying, yeah, I agree with that. Let's do that. And so that's one. And here's another one. Somebody's driving down the road, and you've got St. George's Cross, St. George's Crosses, and you've got Union Jacks as well. And so that's very interesting. Here is BBC reporting England flags hung by locals taken down. England and Union Jack flags being flown across parts of Birmingham have been taken down, with the city council claiming it is due to maintenance works. In recent weeks, Union Jacks and St. George's Crosses have been hung in Wolseley Castle and Northfield areas of the city, with locals said they were doing in an act, or which locals said they were doing in an act of patriotism. But Birmingham City Council issued a safety plea to residents attaching the flags to lampposts and other street furniture. It said it was upgrading streetlights to energy-efficient LED lighting and had so far removed about 200 banners and flags. A statement issued by the council said the work would reduce energy use and lower maintenance costs. And they're claiming safety. Safety is a safety concern, for the LED lights. So they're asking people to not put up the new flags. I don't know if they're going to put up the flags again after replacing all of the lights with tracking LED lights. Did I say tracking LED lights? But here's this guy. Alan says, great to see people proudly flying Union Jacks in Hastings while Birmingham Council take them down, while championing Pakistani and Indian flags and wasting 90 million taxpayer pounds on failed IT and soaring crime. We need to keep upholding values of freedom and liberty, rights in Britain together. So he's talking about this. I'll give him a minute here. He's talking about it.
Well, we're here in Hastings, and it's good to see that people are putting out Union Jacks. We've seen that Birmingham City Council has been taking them down, whilst at the same time promoting the lighting up of Pakistan Independence Day and India Independence Day. Great, they got independence from Britain and from England, but why is it that the Union Jack is being taken down? I'm glad to see people putting them out proudly across the country, where we've got these busybodies that think it's disgusting to have Union Jacks. We remember what Emily Thornberry said about people like with white vans and Union Jacks. That's the view that this current government have got about people. That's the reason they're weaponising a lot of the two-tier justice and policing and the treatment of people differently. Now, we know that you must take a not guilty plea, and you must get lawyers. You should get a Free Speech Union and others to represent you. Become a member.
So there you go. This is the St. George's flag. This is the Union Jack. The St. George's flag is the red and white one with the cross on it. So that's the St. George's flag, and that one's seen as much more radical than the Union Jack. So the fact that he's got a St. George's flag in his video is interesting. Here's Inevitable West again. Says thousands of flags were risen in London late last night in a large-scale Raise the Colours operation. Sadiq Khan is going to have a meltdown. So you can see a bunch of flags here and people with ladders walking around, ready to put up more St. George's flags. Those rebels, right? When did counterculture become patriotism, right? So now the punk rockers are coming to, fix your infrastructure and put up your flags, right? And people are responding well, right? People want to see this. That's notable. That's interesting. Here is further news on the invasion ongoing. We're going to have to kill the stream soon, everyone. People were asking, where do I go when this stream is done? And there's a full show. If you go to CanadaPoly.com, you can also order online at Spotify and Locals. And I think that's it right now. So CanadaPoly.com is probably the best one. Spotify, I hear you can't share my show, which I'm not really surprised about. And YouTube, I'm very censored and so on and so forth. So if you want the full show, you go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up, and I send you an email and you get access to the full show. And usually people watch it after the stream. So I don't have a way to live stream the whole main show because I have to record the whole main show and then I go right now to record the rest of the show. And so I'm sorry that I don't have a live stream for the whole, for paying people. I wish I did. If I could figure it out, I would figure it out and do it, but I have not been able to figure it out yet. So apologies about that. Anyway, got to say goodbye to the stream. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll catch you tomorrow. And for everybody else, we will carry on as soon as I kill this stream here. And that's done. Okay, and everything looks good. Here is, these guys were driving in California illegally, and they killed a family of 3. And what an absolute horrific nightmare of a story. What an awful, awful thing to happen. And they're so callous. And like you watch them, you watch them go under the car, right here. Boom. Like you don't know, like, oh my gosh, they're traveling too fast. They haven't even reacted. This guy just pulled in front of them and the top part of the van is sheared off. They go right underneath it and that's it. They're done. Like they're done. That's it. So Libs of TikTok says the illegal alien obtained a commercial driver's license in California. He just killed 3 people after making an illegal U-turn. This is California's sanctuary policies in action. Sanctuary city policies get people killed. Yes, right there, right in front of your face. This guy says it's now being reported that the driver Hinder Singh entered the United States illegally in 2018, but was still able to get a CDL in the state of California. We have illegal immigrants driving 18-wheelers on American highways. Mass deportations now. Yeah, people are upset. He got arrested, though. The truck driver in the video has been arrested for vehicular manslaughter. This guy says Harjinder Singh entered the United States illegally, but was able to get his driver's license in California. At the conclusion of his state charges, he will be deported. So after he's done his time in jail, I guess, they will deport him. That is incredible. And if you think this is just happening in the United States, well, you're wrong. Here is a driver doing an illegal U-turn across a median in Canada as well.
ਲਾਇਸੈਂਸ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਚੱਕਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਲਾਇਸੈਂਸ ਇੱਕ ਕਾਗਜ਼ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਾਗਜ਼ ਦਾ ਟੁਕੜਾ ਚਲਾਉਣੀ ਤਾਂ ਇਦਾਂ ਆ ਇਹਨੇ ਚੱਕਣਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਓਵਰੰਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ ਲੈ
There you go. So he escaped bad traffic, right? He's out of there. He's gone in the wind. So not good, man. Like people don't even understand the impact they could potentially have, right? And killed a whole family of 3. Unbelievable. Not that guy, the first one. EL says thousands march through Manhattan calling for global intifada. Not a single American flag is present. So this is, people are being flown in to participate in this kind of stuff, and they're being given citizenship as long as they're disruptive to the culture. And the plan is to just keep doing this until the culture just falls out from under, like, until the center gets too wet and mushy and it can't hold it anymore and it just falls out from the middle, and that's that. And then you've completely destabilized the United States. And then they can blame Trump on it. Or they can blame Trump for it as well. Kevin says, surely the police force them to leave open lanes for emergency vehicles, right? The Ottawa Phantom Honking Brigade is launching a civil lawsuit and screaming bloody murder for not doing it, right? Didn't think so. Daisy Media says Wellington Street is closed in both directions as Palestinian protesters pray in the street between Parliament Hill and Prime Minister Mark Carney's office. This is a show of power. This is doing, this is all of the invasion stuff that we're seeing in Manhattan. We're seeing all across the West. Gunther says this is not the Middle East. This is Detroit, Michigan. Same thing. Okay, so this is happening all across the United States, and nobody's allowed to notice this. Here's April, and she's highlighting Laura Loomer's exclusive. She shut this down. Gazans were being flooded from Gaza into the United States, being flown all over the United States. Laura Loomer says, exclusive, despite, this is from the 15th. Today's the 17th. Despite the United States saying we are not accepting Palestinian refugees into the United States under the Trump administration, I've obtained video footage of Palestinians who claim to be refugees from Gaza coming into the United States via San Francisco and Houston, Texas this month. The Palestinians traveled from Gaza to the United States with the help of a group called Heal Palestine. How did Palestinians get visas under the Trump administration to get into the United States? Did the State Department approve this? How did they get out of Gaza? Is Secretary Rubio aware of this? Who from the State Department is assisting Heal Palestine? Why are any Islamic invaders coming into the United States under the Trump administration? Who approved the visas? How many more are being given visas to come into the United States? And why are Gavin Newsom and Greg Abbott harboring Palestinian refugees in California and Texas? This is a national security threat. Why didn't vote for more Islamic immigration into the United States? Who signed those visas? They should be fired. And then the follow-up, Laura Loomer says, America has been invaded by jihadists. Canada has been invaded by jihadists. We need another mass Islamic travel ban. Gazans are being flown all over the country, and Muslims are waving Taliban flags and Hamas and Hezbollah flags in broad daylight on the streets of American and Canadian cities. This is a national crisis. The West is being conquered. I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. And she says, one more tweet from Laura Loomer. She says, all of the Arab publications are losing their minds over the stop to the visas for Gazans following my expose. They want to install an Islamic caliphate in the United States, and they want to flood the United States with violent Palestinians that none of the 56 Muslim nations will take because Gazans are incredibly violent people. 95% of Gazans voted for Hamas. They want you to allow those people into your airports and communities so they can kill your kids and make your neighborhoods filthy. There won't be an NGO to help you and your kids when the left's pet Muslims attack you too. We didn't vote for more Islamic immigration. We voted for travel bans. And so here's Trump. And CTV News is reporting U.S. suspends visas for Gazans after far-right influencer posts. And I said, which far-right influencer do you need to say what exactly? And just word for word, please. What do they need to say to stop this? Because I'll say it. I'll find the right-wing influencer to say it. What do they need to say? What Laura Loomer said. But in Canada, if you expose something, you just get ignored. And that's the unfortunate truth. Here's Ben on Wine says, Ben on Wine says, how many of you agree that public praying like this should be banned in the United Kingdom? Yes, they're doing the same thing that they're doing in Canada, in the United Kingdom, in London. Okay, this is an invasion. This is a show of force, and it's an incredibly concerning situation. Brad says BC is facing the inevitable fallout of an economy built on value-added manufacturing, technology innovation, or unshackling our resources, but primarily on real estate. The province's economic engine has been re-geared to run on relentless mass immigration, where the core business plan is building and selling homes to the next wave of newcomers. This isn't strategy, it's a Ponzi scheme, and like every jurisdiction that's tried it, the house of cards is now beginning to collapse. And so, yeah, I'm glad other people see this. Other people are posting about this. Somebody says to him, you should run for Premier of BC, and he says, are you in for Minister of Finance? So, yeah, people want to fix this, but the people who can fix this aren't being allowed to operate at all. Look at what they're doing to Trump. Okay. Sam Cooper says, exclusive op-ed, Canada's real estate economy fueled by mass immigration and offshore cash is unsustainable, Mayor Brad West warns. So there's more color on this, and you have to go to Sam Cooper's outlet to read that if you're interested. Link is in the description. Blacklock's reporter is reporting, let's do our grab bag of governance very quickly. We could do trade too, but We'll get there in just a minute. Blacklock's reporter says cash is still popular and used by millions. The Bank of Canada study shows as retail banks restrict cash transactions and Finance Canada attempts to ban large cash deposits regardless of the source. And so regardless of the source, we had like 3 $5,000 hours in this afternoon. Sometimes the afternoon manager would do the drop at 4, and then the evening manager would do the drop at midnight. And I always thought it was interesting when there were a lot of people. I worked in a mall and I worked in downtown. And the downtown drop was at CIBC and the mall drop was at Bank of Montreal, or is it CIBC? It's where Bank of Montreal is now. It might have been CIBC then. But regardless, it was a drop box. It was a physical drop box. Everybody was carrying big envelopes of money. Everybody knew everybody was carrying big envelopes of money, and nobody seemed to have a problem. You had to walk with 2 people sometimes, and it was store by store. A lot of stores didn't have that policy, but the store I worked at had that policy. 2 people. Lots of money just in these bags, right? And so did the drop happen? Yes, the drop happened, and people had to sign off on it and all that stuff. I can't imagine them saying no more cash. All that money your business makes in cash. I don't think so. It should all just be computer money. So you should pay 3% to Visa every single time somebody buys something at your shop. Nah, right? That's like a tax, but it already is in place, and that's not good either. So that's pretty wild. We are already using the system they want us to use. They just haven't tightened the screws yet. Breaking Dom Lucra says Uber has officially launched their female-only driver option for passengers that aren't men. So good thing I identify as a woman. So I'm gonna be a woman and order a woman to drive me around. It's weird, man. It's a weird thing that women can order other women to drive them around, and men who believe they're women can do that too. Doesn't that just increase the likelihood of somebody who's maybe not fully with it access to women? Like in a similar way, if somebody who is a male and violent towards women believes they're a woman and accesses the woman's bathroom, and somebody says, "Hey, get out of here, sir," and then they fly off a handle and punch somebody, like that man has the strength of a man, even if he's not, even if he's been on estrogen or whatever. That doesn't negate the testosterone that has been flying through his body for years. So I don't know, man. The whole thing seems very, very weird. This guy says, Bill, B-Y-L, Bill, says, "Hey, Grok, I asked you, since Uber now allows women to choose female drivers only, why can't men also have Uber customized for them so they don't have to be driven by women? You replied, a male-only option could face lawsuits for discrimination. So why is it discrimination if a man wants to be driven only by other men, but it's not discrimination if a woman or a trans person wants to be driven by people like them?" Yeah, weird, right? There are similarities in like the Muslim world. Muslims won't take pictures with women, right? And so what if you framed it that way? Like I'm a religious person and my religion doesn't allow me to be driven around by a woman, so I want to choose men only. Does Uber in the Middle East allow that option? Does Uber in the Middle East allow women to drive? Follow-up question. So I mean, the whole thing is very interesting, and all of our intricacies of the world are just so absurd and bizarre these days. Here's an old-fashioned corruption case. Problematic Durham police probe concludes, but results to remain secret. An investigation into alleged corruption and misconduct within the Durham Regional Police Service has been concluded, but the results will not be released to the public. Oh man, they don't even get a slap on the wrist, right? A 6-year investigation into allegations of corruption and misconduct by top Durham Regional Police brass is now over, but the public may never know the results. The Ontario Civilian Police Commission, OCPC, launched an investigation into the force in May 2019, citing a crisis of confidence related to allegations of corruption and abuse of power. 6 years later, COVID happened, so we couldn't possibly continue the investigation. The commission has received credible information that suggests certain members of the service's leadership might have attempted to cover up, allowed, tolerated, encouraged, or participated in the alleged misconduct or criminal conduct, and that they may have interfered in previous external and internal investigations, read an order signed by Linda P. Lamoureux of Tribunals Ontario on May 23, 2019. The order said the individuals of concern were known within the force as the Untouchables and were believed to be impervious to workplace harassment complaints and to allegations of criminal activity and or misconduct due to their relationship to the service's leadership. So, you know, when Danielle Smith appointed that guy to be the leader of her police force, and he wants to recruit people from Ghana, and in Ghana and other places that he wants to recruit from, corrupt police forces are really kind of par for the course. Welcome to corrupt police forces being par for the course. This is happening in Ontario, right? So pretty wild stuff, right? It's not just those foreign countries that have corrupt police. It's the call is coming from inside the house. It's right here. It's clear that the service's morale suffers from a prevalent perception that advancement and preferential treatment within the service is restricted to individuals favored by certain members of the service's leadership, Lamoureux wrote. The commission appointed an outside administrator, former Toronto Police Deputy Chief Mike Federico, to oversee the force while the investigation was conducted. However, his term expired in 2021 and was not renewed. So we've invested ourselves for a few years, and we've determined nothing to see here. It's going to be secret. Don't ask any more questions. Tribunals Ontario, which assumed the responsibilities of the OCPC when it was disbanded last year, confirmed on Tuesday to the Toronto Star that the investigation has been complete and a final report provided to DRPS, but declined to release a copy. Durham Region has also requested a copy. DurhamRegion.com has also requested a copy of the report. So, yikes. Yeah, and there's a bit more information as well. Several individuals cited in the original investigation, including then Chief Paul Martin, have since left the force. Deputy Chief Dean B., who was briefly charged with professional misconduct as a result of the probe's findings in 23, but later saw the charges dropped, retired last year after 34 years with the service. CAO Stan McClellan's retirement was announced by current Police Chief Morari last week. So they cleaned house, and nobody saw any kind of consequences for anything they did. So old-fashioned corruption, right? That seems very 90s. I could see that happening. Although in the 90s, the bad guys, quote unquote, were framed as the Hells Angels, and the police were saying, we've got to get those Hells Angels because they're the source of organized crime in Ontario. And then when they got the Hells Angels, the organized crime was absorbed into the police force, and it seemed like the assets of the police force were used to cover up the organized crime. So if we could have organized crime operating out of the police or organized crime operating out of Hells Angels clubhouses, I think I would prefer the latter. I think I'd prefer the latter. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I'd prefer the latter, really. So it's unfortunate. And for examples, the police force has, there's a whole war going on in the tow truck industry, and the police force was found to have been having officers stealing police radios, supplying the leads from police radios to tow truck drivers, and then they purchased their own tow truck operation in order to serve those leads, and then started being territorial about where they were serving leads, because some leads are better than other leads, right? And so there's a whole thing. It's still ongoing. And nothing's being sorted out, right? At least when the cops were cops and the Hells Angels were the Hells Angels, you kind of knew what was what, right? Now, I mean, who knows what you're getting? Who knows? Joe Warmington is talking about the flag raising, and I spoke about this yesterday, but I'm just pointing out that other people are noticing how weird all of this is. And Canada is being transitioned from a country that celebrates itself to a country that is part of a coalition of the willing, maybe. And that being part of that coalition of the willing means maybe we're going to be part of a global government, and maybe the global government's flag is the trans progress flag, or something like that. And anyway, Joe Warmington says, hey, Mark Carty, he says it's clearer in the video captured by Chris Dacey what was tweeted earlier about the new flag installed outside of the Prime Minister's office. This is a screenshot of it. Perhaps Mark Carney or someone in office can explain what it represents and the reason it's being displayed there. It represents globalist communists, and it represents conquest, Joe. That's what it represents. And I wish I was wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. I really, really don't. Here's a rare Rebel News piece, and the Liberals, and this is based on Blacklock's reporter reporting this. New Liberal Party figures show some 200,000 members' votes went uncounted in the leadership contest that saw two candidates disqualified. We have to be very realistic of the threats of foreign interference, they say. But pretty crazy. This record-breaking support builds on successful race and national campaign, an unprecedented feat in Canadian history that elected Mark Carney as the leader, wrote the party. However, concerns arose on the legitimacy of Carney's vote, given his consistently uniform totals across all 338 Canadian ridings and the surprisingly low counts for 2 cabinet ministers and leadership hopefuls in their own districts. In Chrystia Freeland's Toronto riding, she received only 11% of the vote, 188 votes, while Mark Carney received 83%. He received 83% in every riding, I think, didn't he? Similarly, Karina Gould, another cabinet minister, secured only 190 votes in her home riding, with Carney winning significantly. 83%. 83% Rebel News. You didn't want to put that? Weird, right? So 190 votes for Karina Gould in her home riding and 188 votes for Christina Freeland in her home riding. That's also a strange anomaly. To get within 2 votes of each other, that's weird. That's got to be statistically impossible. That's like lightning striking your pinky toe twice, right? Like, I don't think so. The Liberal Party was unavailable for comment on its disclosure yesterday. Shocking. I'm shocked about that. I'm super duper, my jaw's on the floor. Here is, yesterday we were talking, and Ryan Garrettson's highlighting that the Liberal government is putting tariffs on goods which are supposed to be covered under the USMCA. And I have been speculating for a while, this is talking about trade, that Mark Carney doesn't want a deal, is not trying to make a deal, is actively trying to sabotage any kind of potential deal, and that's bad, right? Like, that's not great. And other people are noticing that too, right? The noticing continues. Catherine says, I'm quite sure Carney doesn't want a deal, no matter how much damage it does to Canadians. Once a deal is reached, he'd lose his best weapon with the gullible Liberal voters, which is orange man bad. He wants a new election and a majority government so he can trash Canada without opposition. Maybe. I don't know that he wants a new election. I think he can operate pretty freely right now. Our government configuration is in the same configuration it was, and the Conservatives are openly voting with the Conservatives, and that's not great too, right? Like, that's just super not good. And so I agree. I don't think he wants any kind of deal. He's not moving. He's not making any action to look like he's moving towards a deal. Here is Harmon. He says fentanyl super labs are being uncovered across British Columbia. Now the government is scrambling with civil forfeiture lawsuits. This crisis is exploding under Dave Eby. This is exactly what the Conservative Party of BC has been warning about while calling for real action to protect communities. Only the Conservative Party of BC will fix this. And this is a clip from the Vancouver Sun. BC government files forfeiture lawsuit for 3 properties allegedly used as fentanyl labs. BC government wants 3 Lower Mainland properties forfeited, alleging their owners were part of a sophisticated operation to produce fentanyl in 3 clandestine labs. The clandestine lab model, of course, made famous in Breaking Bad, right? So Walt and Jesse move from house to house, and they cook, and then they leave, and it's very difficult for police to zone in on them, and they are able to operate with impunity, and they use a business, their fumigation business, right? And so instead of using a fumigation business, I think that's what it was, these guys are just using a house and saying, oh, well, don't look in here, I guess. And the government allows them to continue to operate, I guess. That's the only conclusion I can come to. Here's the actual article, and I'm not going to read any of it, but it was published yesterday. So fentanyl is a big deal with trade. Trump has said he wants to work with Canada in order to stop the flow of drugs into the United States, and Canada has operated in bad faith for years and from the get-go when dealing with Trump, all the way back to 2016, all the way back to the renegotiation of the USMCA, all of that. Bad faith. We have not done anything at all to better our situation. We have, in fact, worked to make it worse. And this is another example of that. We're not acting in order to stop any of this fentanyl stuff. Where's the fentanyl czar? Has the fentanyl czar had anything to do with this? Gosh. Hold on. Ooh, I can pause it. I'm going to go and search the article for fentanyl czar. Nope. There is no fentanyl. There's no fentanyl czar at all. No fentanyl czar. Oh, well. So the article talking about the drug labs and the fentanyl super labs operating in BC, fentanyls are what fentanyls are. We don't even need to mention that fentanyls are in the article at all. Thanks very much. Next question. So we're in August, and we're on the other side of August, right? We're August 17th. It's getting chilly at night. We had rain in Ontario this morning. It hammered down. I got woken up at 5 o'clock this morning with a big thunderstorm, and I like thunderstorms, so it was fine. But I was up early today, and that's good. But I was in Walmart and I saw all of the orange shirts that said "Every Child Matters," and I could feel the engine revving up. They want to replace Thanksgiving with Truth and Reconciliation Day, and I don't want to. I think that that's a bad idea because Truth and Reconciliation Day is based on a lie, and they're revving the lie up again and trying to do it with no proof. And this is how you get unquestionable falsehoods believed by a large majority of people. There are other examples of these falsehoods that people have been browbeaten into accepting. And if you do a little bit of digging, I promise you'll come across one or two or three, but definitely one. For sure one. CTV News says another 41 unmarked graves detected at BC residential school site, First Nation says. Toronto Dave says, is CTV News going to have the guts to dive in and learn what's fact and what's speculation? Detection of anything with ground radar is useless without follow-up sampling and excavation. What can we find out what's real here? Or do you like the fact that this causes so much finger pointing? And so the point is the finger pointing, the point is the wedge, the point is I believe it because XYZ, and somebody else says, well, I don't believe it because of XYZ. And now you've got a beautiful wedge that people can take one side or the other side, and nobody ever gets to the solution because the solution is it's all bullshit anyway. Doesn't effing matter. None of it's true. It's all fake. It's all based on lies. But they'll wedge us and wedge us and wedge us until we forget about Thanksgiving, and Truth and Reconciliation Day based on lies is the order of the day. And what they'll do is get us doing it, phase in the Truth and Reconciliation Day, phase out the Thanksgiving, and then they'll just say, oh, well, we've noticed as the government that you guys stopped doing this whole Thanksgiving thing and have started doing this Truth and Reconciliation Day thing instead, and so we're going to move the holiday from here to here, and it's just the same. It's basically the same. And so that it's like the Indiana Jones thing, right? Moving the weight and all that. They're going to try it. It's ridiculous. And I can't believe that other people don't see it, but they largely don't see it. Mark Carney says, my statement following the Alaska summit. Let's talk about the negotiations in Alaska. And Mark Carney he was cut out of the phone call after the Alaska summit. After Putin left, Trump called Zelensky and they had an hour-long call. And then he called van der Leyen and Mintz. No, maybe not Mintz. The Chancellor of Germany, Mintz? I can't remember which one he is now. And like all of the EU leaders, right? I think Viktor Orban was on the call. I'm just kidding. But the EU leaders, the main EU leaders, Macron and Germany and all the rest. I don't know if Keir Starmer was on the call or the Australian Prime Minister, but Canada was specifically not mentioned. And so for Carney to come out with a statement now, it's ridiculous. Because he's pretending that he matters on the world stage when he absolutely does not. He doesn't at all. Here is Carney. He says, the leadership of President Trump in the United States is creating the opportunity to end Russia's illegal war in Ukraine. Robust and credible security guarantees are essential to any just and lasting peace. I welcome the openness of the United States to providing security guarantees as part of the Coalition of the Willing's effort. Canada is closely coordinating with President Zelensky and our partners in the Coalition of the Willing to intensify our steadfast support for Ukraine and our shared commitment to its peace and security. What utter nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Ursula von der Leyen has invited herself to the White House. She says this afternoon, I will welcome Zelensky in Brussels. Together, we will participate in the Coalition of the Willing's VTC. At the request of President Zelensky, I will join the meeting with President Trump and other European leaders in the White House tomorrow. I can't wait. That's going to be fun to watch. I hope it's like a Benny Hill skit where, one person's in the room and then they move them to another room and then there's like fast walking and people, Ursula von der Leyen and Zelensky are trying to get in the same room, but they can never get in the same room. And different people keep thwarting them. They keep walking into the wrong room, but it's a room the other one was just in recently. I'm sure I've seen a skit like this. And so I feel like the Trump administration is pretty expert at managing people, especially when they have a purpose for that. And an example is when I think Trump knew Zelensky was going to blow up, and I think he put him on display to blow him up. And I think he baited him, and I think he opened the door and watched Zelensky walk through, and he got exactly what he needed. And that gave Trump leverage in further negotiations, leverage with the American people, because he was basically saying, this guy's unreasonable. I'm going to show the American people that he's unreasonable. Here we go. And so that's a way I think that Trump is good at highlighting things that he wants the American people to see. Management. Now, are they going to be able to comically keep Zelensky and Ursula apart in a negotiation? Not necessarily, but I think Trump is going to be able to, he's got to deal with Ursula, and I think he'll be able to use that. He's got independent leverage, and I think he'll be able to use that independent leverage in a way that is beneficial and to keep him on track. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. He seems to have moves in his head. Here is Tucker Carlson, and he's talking about how he's not mad at Putin for screwing up the country that he lives in. He's mad at leadership. And then this guy says, well, yeah, well, I'm mad at Putin. Here we go.
I'm not mad at Putin. Never have been.
I am.
Yeah. Okay. You should be mad at your own leaders. You know, Putin didn't let in millions of immigrants to Germany and hate.
I mean, his soldiers killed friends of mine, colleagues, when I was in Ukraine. So that's
friends die in war. They were ordered into war by American leaders. So I had a good friend die in the Iraq War. And so am I mad at Saddam Hussein? No. I'm mad because he wouldn't have been there. It's a guy from Washington, D.C., Northwest Washington, D.C., and he's in Baghdad. Why was he in Baghdad? He was in Baghdad because George W. Bush was pushed into supporting a war that nothing was not left. So I think what we're being trained to do, and you clearly are the victim of this, is quite a sophisticated operation, is to channel people's frustration into directions that serve the people who caused the frustration in the first place. Your country's a mess because your leaders suck. That's the fact.
Well,
but you're mad about that, so they take your anger and they're like, oh no, it's Putin's fault. It's Putin's fault. Okay, got it.
I disagree. I disagree.
You disagree. It's like that's incontestable.
I don't know about Tucker's his power move there. I'm going to laugh at you and say this is what I've said is incontestable, but I think I agree with him to the degree that it's not Putin's fault that Canada's in trouble. It's not Putin's fault that the leadership of the West has opened up the borders and allowed an insane amount of migrants to come in and steal our production, steal jobs, all sorts of stuff. Not just steal, they're handing it over and we subsidize it with our tax dollars. It's wild. It's so incredible. So, but I don't blame Putin for that. And I agree with that, at least. Gareth says, let's talk about the United Kingdom, and then we're going to talk about the WEF and the United States, and then I've got a moment of zen for you. Maybe, I think it's funny, but I could be wrong. Oh, no, yeah, it's a female. It's pretty good. Okay, UK first. Gareth says, it seems that wherever locals protest against immigration, largely non-local, well-funded, organized, anti-racist agitators, seemingly supported by the police, confront them. Locals say the arrivals instigated clashes. So who are these people? Why doesn't the media expose them? The media doesn't expose them because they work for the same people. They're all on the same team. That's why the media doesn't expose them, because they'd be writing an article about their bosses, and their bosses would not like that very much. Here's an example of a two-tier justice system. This guy is at a protest. He says, "We love bacon." And I think he's trying to get a chant started, like, "We love bacon." And then he gets arrested as soon as he says, "We love bacon" one time. That's it. You don't love bacon enough. You're under arrest.
We love bacon. Arrested.
He said wankers, and then he said, "We love bacon." And when you say it like that, obviously the other people should join in and say, "We love bacon." But he got arrested. And so no "We love bacon" chant, right? And Patriotic Nation says, it seems filming at a migrant hotel gets you arrested for breach of the peace. On the other hand, if you are a migrant from a hotel here illegally, you can just walk into somebody's house and that's fine. The Met Police. So yesterday I showed you footage of two police officers arguing with a crowd of people about a migrant who walked into somebody's house, and they were upset that nothing had been done. And apparently there's more to the story, and the Met Police are watching CCTV footage in order to figure it out. But the woman who called the police, who owned the house, who had the person come into her house, she's been arrested as well. And I thought that was weird. And so if you film migrant hotels, you're disturbing the peace, apparently, which is weird, because that's not true.
Please don't come back into the site.
Listen, I'll do what I want to do.
Come back into the site, sir, then I'll arrest you to prevent a breach of the peace.
Go on then, do it then. I can walk over there in a minute.
Come back in the site.
Go on. I'll be walking straight through there in a minute. And there's not fuck all you can do about it.
There is. I really don't want to get to this stage.
No, no, ain't.
Okay.
I'm
going to give you your space. If you come back in the site again,
Toodle off.
I'll arrest you to prevent a breach of the peace.
Go on, toodle off.
I'm not going to leave, sir.
Go on, see you later. We are in a public place and you are grabbing me. Yeah? I'm going back where I want to go.
You're under arrest for preventing the breach of the
What
peace.
do you mean I'm under arrest? What do you mean I'm under arrest?
You don't have to say anything, but it may harm you.
Mate, don't be twisting me up, geez. Put the hands in front at least.
Maybe giving it the hands that go to the front.
Mate, put the hands in the front at least. Yeah? You are absolute joking, yeah? Why do you want to get a second pair?
So
Put the hands to the front at least. I'm not violent.
The hands do not go
Mate,
to the
you're
front.
twisting my arm up. Look at that, look. You're on camera doing this. You are 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 twisting me up.
You're resisting.
You are twisting me up. You are twisting me. You are standing on my foot. You are standing on my foot. Yeah, look what you're doing.
I think this man has made a mistake. He thinks that he is in a place where the law applies, and he is not. He's in England. So they're going to twist you up. They're going to do all sorts of stuff in order to make it uncomfortable for you because they don't work for you anymore. They work for somebody else. Bernie is responding to GB Politics, and GB Politics says the Labour Party's review of an Islamophobia definition has been postponed due to an influx of spam submissions. The delay follows the public sharing of the consultation website, which led to thousands of spam entries, overwhelming the platform. Yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of spam entries, and people are saying it's a joke because it's a joke, and they're trying to ban speech they don't like with bullshit justifications that are bullshit. Bernie says, translation, Labour has postponed a review of the definition of Islamophobia because once they opened up the consultations to ordinary people, the responses saying they didn't want a definition was overwhelming. As I always say, the people will decide. Maybe. Here is an interesting development in BlackRock and WEF territory. Larry Fink, the BlackRock owner, leader, chairman, is now the WEF co-chairman, not just chairman, co-chairman. So the World Economic Forum has named BlackRock's Larry Fink as its new chairman. And here's Reuters talking about this. The World Economic Forum closed an investigation on its founder, Klaus Schwab, on Friday, clearing him of any wrongdoing. Oh, phew. Goodness. I was worried there. And appointing BlackRock CEO Larry Fink and Roche Holdings Vice Chair Andre Hoffman as interim co-chairs of its board. The Geneva-based organization has launched an investigation in April into the 87-year-old Schwab following a whistleblower letter alleging misconduct. So, yeah, but they found nothing. So don't worry, everybody. Just go back to sleep. Everything's fine. Here's the last two for today. Peter says, declassified bombshell. The FBI's own internal timeline memo, just declassified by Kash Patel, proves that multiple FBI field offices were investigating the Clintons for pay-to-play and bribery revelations contained in my book, Clinton Cash. And then the Obama Department of Justice ordered the career agents to shut it down. This isn't just a smoking gun. It's the whole arsenal. So there's more, and there's more. And they've got Hillary Clinton, and I'm sure there are other people who've done wildly illegal things, and nothing's been done to them for years. And are we going to see arrests? When do you think are we going to see arrests? No, we won't see arrests. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. I talk often about how the government targeted women because the government was not getting any taxes from women, and they didn't like the idea that women could be home and a stable source of knowledge and love and care for their children and things like that. So they decided we'll let them raise other people's children at daycare and pay us for the privilege to do so. And so they created jobs and encouraged women to get into the workforce. And now they're selling this idea that OnlyFans is a viable replacement for a stable relationship where there's give and take, right? And so I found this enlightening, and I thought you guys would find this enlightening as well. So here it is, your moment of Zen. I don't know who not this woman, but this woman is, but she's very well spoken, and I think I agree with a lot of what she's putting forward. I think she's spot on. So here we go.
I just take issue with the whole thing that it stands. For starters, like I said, the name of the platform, when people, and again, not to attack you guys personally, but they come on here, they say, oh, we're models, models, and my fans pay me this. You're not models. You guys don't have contracts with agencies. I think it is just a glamorized lifestyle that is really dependent on selling that lie to other young girls. But it's just a pyramid scheme financially. If you look at the way the money goes down, the top 1% of creators are earning basically all of the money. But I think what it particularly is a cultural pyramid scheme. And what I mean by that is that it's not that you're trying to get these young girls like in an MLM type thing where, you know, buy the new Mary Kay makeup, buy the new pair of leggings or something. You're trying to convince them. And you guys, no offense, are doing it just by sitting here and trying to normalize work and laughing about the cultural pyramid scheme angle of it is that you are trying to get girls to buy into the fact that doing it will not have any negative impacts on their life down the road, which is categorically false.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think that she's right, and she's framing the argument in the right way. And it's a really interesting thing when society tells you one thing is good, and it's clearly not good, and it doesn't have good outcomes, and blah 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 blah, and you stack it up and you say how can you say that this is a good thing? And the reason that these women say it's a good thing is because they're financially incentivized to say it's a good thing because they're benefiting from it. So they say it's a good thing because they're benefiting from it, but for society as a whole, it's cancer. And so how do you make that argument? How do you counteract this machine that keys right into our base needs, but then hijacks it and hotwires it to its own means? You know what I mean? It's almost parasitic. It's almost taking those biological urges, right, for men or whatever, and even for women, and using it as in a parasitic way to make you behave in a different way that takes you to a different outcome. And the outcome is no babies, but maybe lots of money. Right? And lots of men looking at you and lots of men adoring you, but no solid attachments or anything like that. Lots of sex, no production from the sex, right? And that seems to be the point. And it's so interesting because I think there's a lot of layers to what's happened and we can't talk about it. Like we can't, as a society, we can't talk about it. It's verboten because like women get upset about it. Women get upset about it. And say you don't have a right to talk about this because you're a man and the power imbalance and blah, 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 blah. And like new age feminism is crazy. And so there's no feeling in the West like we're all on the same team working for the same goals here. Let's all pull together. And when we pull together, we can make incredible things happen. That's not how people are being trained to think about things. They're thinking about, I got mine, Jack. And if I've got 5,000 guys giving me $100 a month or whatever it is, and I'm making millions, then I'm doing great. And they don't understand that they're sacrificing their entire future potentially by not creating their family and by monetizing their womanhood, monetizing those years instead of using those years to establish your family. You're actually trading money for something that will pay off much more in the next 30 years, right? Like that money, maybe you'll be rich, maybe you'll invest it, right? Et cetera, but also maybe it'll be gone. And then at 45, you'll realize the mistake that you acted out because somebody told you to, because somebody said this is the way to do it. And really, we're being lied to on multiple levels and taken away from the proper way, the quote, proper way to live, the most beneficial way to live for ourselves, for our bodies, for our mental health, so on and so forth. And I think that we know, and I think we're being taken away. I think that society knew at one time, and I think we're being walked away from it purposely by malicious people who don't like us. But maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But this kind of stuff, I think that I'm right. And this kind of stuff bolsters that thought for me. Anyway, that's enough out of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for your support. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.